Good day and welcome back to the Ottawa History Hub podcast. We've taken a brief break for the holidays, and now we're ready to start to dive back into the deep end with the story of Ottawa. We're still in the prelude, but this upcoming chapter is meant to cover the 90 years between when the French capitulated at Quebec in 1759 and 1839, when the settlement of the Ottawa River and the Rideau River merged around Bytown to become the city of Ottawa and the capital of the country of Canada. At the beginning of those 90 years, Ottawa was an Algonquin hunting ground. It hadn't fully recovered after the Haudenosaunee ran through the pipeline of the Ottawa River like a lightning bolt, cauterizing their way down to the ground of the Ottawa River. Under the English administration, the Ottawa Valley was at first a part of the province of Quebec, and a part of the same colonial administration as the soon-to-be fighting for their independence 13 colonies. We're going to start by looking at the relationship between the Indigenous Algonquin and the new Europeans on the St. Lawrence, the English, whose relationship was remarkably different than the one that the French had seen. Then, why Quebec, Acadia, and Newfoundland, all British colonies, didn't join with the 13 turncoat colonies during the American War of Independence, after which the British started giving away land in the Ottawa Valley to Loyalist refugees from the lawless revolutionary chaos south of the border. Ottawa was not settled as a geographic western expansion out of Quebec. There were already many colonies, trading posts, and towns developing far to the west of the site of the future capital. Toronto, Detroit, Thunder Bay, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and the Ohio and Illinois countries were all home to settlements of various sizes and are all notably west of Ottawa. It was settled northerly, away from the United States. The early settlements were farms and other rural or semi-rural settlements throughout the valleys, slowly united into townships, usually around the mills, until the arrival of Colonel John By and the construction of the Rideau Canal system. This culminated with the dedication of the first roots of a city in the region that would be formally named Bytown after Colonel John By, though the formal naming would be long after his death. Colonel By's main legacy was the canal system that joined Kingston to Ottawa, making it possible for Great Lakes commerce and movement to bypass the St. Lawrence between Montreal and Lake Ontario, as that was now a borderland with the unpredictable Yankees. Bytown grew as a major hub in the Ottawa Valley system, as a depot where the lumber trade and farming communities up the Gatineau, the Rideau, and the Ottawa would all regroup before middlemen could take over the transit and continue along to the markets of Montreal and the world beyond. The communities of the area were surveyed and allotted by the Colonial Office, a much more assertive and measured participant in the process than the more laissez-faire French had been, or the chaotic settler corporations that characterized the English and then American settlement into the Ohio and Illinois countries. When lands were distributed, they were often divided along religious lines. That made for the creation of Anglican towns, Presbyterian towns, and even some Catholic towns throughout the valley. This was reflected in the neighborhoods that emerged in Bytown, and was the cause of a lot of strife and violence throughout the early days of the settlement. Gradually, the riots of the 1830s and 40s became less common, but they were never far from the front of people's minds as the city developed. The city of Bytown would grow organically until 1857, when it was rechristened Ottawa and proclaimed to be the capital of a new and united Dominion of Canada. The change of name and the proclamation as a capital was a large enough difference to justify the division into a new chapter at that point. Bytown was not Ottawa. It was a lumber town, prone to violence along religious and linguistic lines, and an outpost of Montreal, politically speaking. America also played a major role in its settlement. The region was settled in the wake of the American War of Independence, then other Americans like Philemon Wright, and again later after the War of 1812, first by Loyalists and veterans of the war. The British saw the settlement as being very defensible, hard to reach overland for an invader, but in easy communications through the river system to the St. Lawrence and the Great Lakes regions. What makes Bytown an interesting case study is that it was everything that Canada in the 19th century was: a bulwark against the Americans, but also very connected with the United States by people and by commerce. It was a border town between Upper and Lower Canada, connecting both the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence systems. It had a Protestant administration and a large Catholic population. It was predominantly English-speaking, with a large Francophone population. Its economy was based on collecting primary resources and getting them to markets far away. Had the decision not been made to name Bytown as the future capital, the future of Bytown is a curious what-if for historians and pub-goers to debate. Please join us for Chapter 2 of the Ottawa History Hub podcast, Bytown. Enjoy.